Hi everyone, we are analyzing OkCupid data to identify clusters from our customer database. My name is Christian and my group is Alan, Michael, and Olivia. We're going to be exploring the data, then looking at some specific features of our users, and then conclude with 4 aha moments. So in terms of data exploration and decision making, we had to do 3 major steps before starting the analysis. We took a broad look at the data, we cleaned the data, and then we dealt with missing data. As you can see, the income variable is one of the highest missing values. 80% of the data is not there. Yet this variable is very important to better understand our users and maybe to target them in terms of marketing strategy. So we keep this variable, we analyze it, yet we have to be cautious about it. In terms of data exploration and decision making, to the right, you find an average male and female in this database. We had 60,000 or around 60,000 observations. Then we'll limit that by age, height, and location so that we could filter it appropriately, and we ended up with 56,000 observations. Religion is an interesting aspect. 26% of our users are either agnostics or atheists, and almost twice as many men are in this category when compared to women, which might impose a difficulty to match women and men. So in terms of personality, we can see here, we just wanted to do a word map and analyze as broadly as possible to what extent people like certain things. So the more things you have in common, the more likely you are to match. In this word map, we found what's important to our users and location, having fun, the age of the people, and relationships are very important. And from there, we just found our first aha moment, like pet lovers are a large and easy to target group. 25% of our users like both dogs and cats. And of them, most don't have kids. The number of pet lovers not against having kids, almost triple those who don't want kids. So these users might be looking for more serious relationships and also have these interesting features of pet lovers. So we dig into the word map of pet lovers and we just see that words like love, like, time, people, life, all that are related to relationships are more prevalent than others. So this might be a very interesting feature to keep analyzing. And so our aha moment, pet lovers are easy to target and also to locate. Parks and places of recreation is where they normally go with their pets. And then we can associate with brands that sell pet food and gear. And when targeting pet lovers, it is very important to distinguish between those who would be okay having kids and those who just don't want kids.
Building off of personality, we wanted also to take a look at the lifestyle people lead and how that relates to OkCupid. Why does lifestyle matter? We saw that people are drawn to those who they share common interests with. And so we want to see what someone's profile can tell us about their lifestyle and the way they live their everyday life. So in order to do this, we thought it would be interesting to look at their drinks, drugs, smokes, body type, and diet information, analyze these variables, and then make focused marketing efforts based on the results that we got from our analysis. So first, we decided to take a look at the health tendencies of our population. We see that looking in smoking and in taking drugs, typically unhealthy behavior, that our population has a large aversion to this. So this indicates that our user base would be more attracted to those who don't, indulge in drugs and smoking and live similarly healthy lifestyles. It's important to keep in mind as well that San Francisco as a city itself is a lot healthier than other cities in the United States and is a lot more against smoking and drug tendencies than other cities, and our population would follow suit as well. Building on this, we also wanted to look at the dietary and drinking habits of our population. Going on dates, oftentimes going out to eat and drinking and stuff like that comes into play. So we wanted to see how that would affect our population. We can see that the majority of our population is very open to dining experiences. Restricted and somewhat restricted encapsulate those who might have religious restrictions or are vegan or vegetarian. We can see that the most of our population would be open to different dining options. And looking at drinking, we can see that the most of our population is also accepted of drinking, where no encapsulates those who never drink, and yes encapsulates the rest. So we see that they're a very adventurous user base. We also wanted to take a look at the active lifestyle of our users. We can see that we numbered it as important and not unimportant for the importance of being in shape. See that the majority of our user base finds being in shape important, and that is also important for dating because that allows you to do more things while on dates. So being active is a plus, not a requirement, but definitely helps a lot in the user's profile. For the aha moment, as we saw, the aversion to an unhealthy lifestyle is important, but then they're also a little bit adventurous. So you can see that people are trying to portray themselves in their best light on their profiles. So it's important to keep in mind, but also that marketing directors could focus joint ventures with local businesses in the Bay Area, with perhaps restaurants, vineyards, bars, or outdoor activities, and promote them as great first dates, where it's a win-win for both that business and OkCupid marketing-wise.
Hi, in this section, we want to understand the general demographics in more analytical detail and derive an aha moment for OKC's management. First, we looked at age and gender and if our user base can be clustered through unsupervised learning into effective clusters. Effective means that we would like to have the lowest possible number of clusters and cover the majority of data variance. So for age and gender, we used vtree to turn age values into numericals. We omitted NAs, and we applied k-means analysis. We plotted a few clusters, and then we used an elbow plot to understand when we cover roughly 90% variance in our data. And for age and gender, we saw that 4 clusters would be sufficient. Next slide. For age and religion, we did the same. We oversimplified religion by picking the first value per observation, because there are many values per observation. That left us with 9 religious groups. Then we turned into unique levels manually, numerical levels, and we omitted NAs, we applied the k-means algorithm, and we plotted an elbow plot, and we saw that 2 clusters would cover 90% variance in our data. Next slide. For age and income, we created a new data frame, we omitted NAs. As Cristian mentioned, income has 80% missing data, so that left us with only 5,000 plus observations. We applied the k-means and plotted an elbow plot, and we saw that 3 clusters would cover 90% variance in our data. Next slide. What we then wanted to see, we want to drill further beyond clustering to come up with a very tangible aha moment for management, and we look closer at age, gender, and income in correlation with offspring. So here we can see that the large user group is at the lower end of the data income range. And for the deep dive analysis, we merged similar unique levels of offspring into wants kids, no kids, has kids, or no answer. Next slide. Here in the violin chart below, we see that the very large base is in the low income range. And for the number 1, wants kids, or has kids, number 2, you can see that the base is very broad. Next slide. So we wanted to see, is there a difference between the gender, between females and males? So we could see that there's a very clear difference between female in red and male users in green in the category of wants kids for the low income range. So specifically for very low income users, females are very much more interested in having kids, and male are more positive on this when the income increases. Next slide. So for the aha moment here, the question to management would be, what is the greatest footprint you can have on the user's life? What if we as OKC aim to leave a legacy behind? And what better than the user's family story beginning with OKC? So here, to achieve that, we would target female low-income users, and we identified them as our best target to achieve the above. So we suggest next steps to do further investigation, analyze low-income female users' education. If we find that these are female students, we could aim marketing at colleges and universities or student social events. And the good side effect here would be that these become potential higher income users with time. And also we know that we need to increase our female user population in correlation to the male user population. As we saw in section 1, we have more males in the system.
And lastly, we decided we wanted to look at location. So location was a pretty obvious variable for us to look at, because this is a reason why people are on the website, is that they wanted to go on dates with people in the area. And so we wanted to also look at location with income because, as Cristian mentioned earlier, income was widely left blank, and around 80% of users didn't answer that question, and we had a feeling that this might be controversial and that perhaps looking at it based on location, we could figure something out. So first, we decided to try to look at location and income by city. So as you can see on this map, the larger and bluer the dots are, the higher the income is. And so the graph looks great, but upon further inspection, the points aren't so trustworthy. Like, for example, the really bright blue dot in the lower left-hand corner has a mean income of $500,000. But when you look at the actual data, there was only 2 data points in there. So it was quickly obvious that the data was too spotty, and looking at it by the city level was much too granular, and we had to zoom out. So then we looked at income by county. So on the left, we have the average income by county. The brighter the blue is, the higher the reported income is. So you can see San Francisco has the highest average reported income. And on the right, you have the non-response rate for the income question. So the brighter the red is here, the higher the non-response rate. So Contra Costa is the county with the highest non-response rate for income. And so when you look at these graphs side by side, you can see that counties with a higher reported average income are correlated with a higher non-response rate. So that was really interesting. We wanted to dig deeper into that. And by doing so, we pulled the median income from the US Census Bureau website because it wasn't given to us in the Census Bureau data that we were given. So I listed them out on the right, in that table on the right, and they're listed in order as they appear in the legend of the graph. And so, as you can see, counties where the median income is lower are correlated with higher reported income. So that leads us to our aha moment, which is, we have 2 theories on this. So users either feel more comfortable sharing their income if it is on the higher end of their population, so their county in this situation. So a way that we could sort of pull that out is if we ran campaigns and ads of couples on dates in local spots that don't involve money. So the Bay Area has a lot of good options such as hiking, picnicking, and like Alan mentioned previously, university social events like targeting women. Or OkCupid, for some reason, is attracting individuals with a higher income. So we could do the exact opposite of what I just said, where we could run campaigns where couples are living out glamorous dates and lifestyles. And so at the end, you could sort of figure out which campaigns end up pulling in the most users and driving more matchups. And to summarize our 4 aha moments, as Alan talked about first, we have a large and prevalent pet-loving group who potentially wants to have children, so we could target them based on that. There's lifestyle, which we looked at. So if people are healthy, fit, and adventurous, they should be easier to match because on paper, everyone is looking for someone similarly like that. And demographic-wise, we have the idea of keeping your family legacy and also being able to drum up more traffic for the female base because there's more males on the site than females. And then finally, location, which I just talked about. So we have, on average, a high income user base and find out if the users are just above the average income or not wanting to report for other reasons. So thank you for listening to our presentation.